Welcome to GL Studios Music Theory, Introduction to Intervals by joellukamasia. Definition. What is an interval? Sometimes a person may ask himself or herself, what is an interval? And we can define an interval as is the pitch distance between two musical sounds or pitches. For example, when you look at the diagram here on the treble clef, we have the lower E and the D. So the distance between these two notes is what we call an interval. For example, if I may demonstrate by singing, for example, oh and oh, the pitch distance between those two sounds is what we call an interval in music. We have two types of intervals, and that is the melodic interval and the harmonic interval. Now, the melodic interval is when two sounds or pitches are written or sounded one after the other. When writing a melodic interval, you'll start, for example, with this E, then you come to D. There's a space here. You are writing a note after a note. And if we are sounding, for example, if they are going to sound them, you'll hear that they are playing one after the other. But when you go to the harmonic interval is when two sounds are written vertically one on top of the other, and when the two pitches are sounded or played, when the two pitches are always sounded and played together. So harmonic intervals are played or sounded together, and when writing them, you write one on top of the other. For example, this is E, and this is D on top of E. Let me sound it. You hear they're sounding together. So that is a harmonic interval. You have noted that an interval that is written within the range of an octave is referred to as a simple interval, while the one above the range of an octave is regarded as a compound interval. Remember, an octave means 8. So when you're counting the notes of the scale and an interval is less than 8, then it means that interval is a simple interval. But when it's outside the notes of the scale, the 8 notes of the scales, then it becomes a compound interval. I have an example here. The first example of a simple interval, you're having from the middle C here to G. This is C, D, E, F, G. When you count them, there are 5. So it's a fifth. So it's less than an octave, meaning it's a simple interval. So C to G. C to G is a simple interval, an example of a simple interval. But when you look at this one, we have C to E. This is C, then to E. So we are getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 octave, 9, then you have 10. So this is a compound interval. It's more than an octave. Now, describing intervals. Intervals may be regarded as either major, minor, perfect, augmented, or diminished. So when describing intervals, you are only supposed to say a major seventh or a minor seventh, a perfect what, an augmented what, or a diminished what. Those are how you describe them. Now, major intervals, you are being told that major intervals are those of the second, the third, the sixth, and the seventh. So when writing a scale from the tonic to the second, that one, the second is a major interval, the third is a major interval, the sixth is also a major interval, and the seventh is also a major interval. We'll talk about those one later, how to get them. Then minor intervals are intervals that are formed when you reduce a major interval by a semitone. Also a minor interval when you can also get a minor interval if you increase a diminished interval by a semitone. But let us focus on reducing the major interval by a semitone. So a minor interval, they come from major intervals. You notice that they also have the second, the third, the sixth, and the seventh. It means that when you reduce a major second by an interval, a semitone, it becomes a minor second. You reduce a major third by a semitone, it becomes a minor third, and so on. Then you have perfect intervals. Perfect intervals are those of the fourth, fifth, and octave. Also, we have a unison. So fourth, fifth, and octave. We'll talk about the unison later. A unison is simply one interval, one sound, so it has no value, just one. So it's also a perfect interval. And then we have diminished interval. Diminished intervals are formed by reducing the size of a minor interval or a perfect interval by a semitone. So if you reduce a perfect interval by a semitone, it becomes a diminished interval. When you reduce a minor interval by a semitone, it becomes a diminished interval. Augmented intervals. Now, augmented intervals, these are intervals that are formed when increasing the size of either a major or a perfect interval by a semitone. So augmented intervals, when you increase a major interval, it becomes an augmented interval. And when you reduce, when you increase a perfect interval, so it becomes a augmented interval. So thank you so much for watching this lesson. I want you to wait for the next lesson, so that when we'll be explaining how do we know that this is a major interval, and how do you know this is a minor interval, how do you know this is a perfect interval, and how do you know this is an augmented or diminished interval. I'll be explaining how to identify intervals, how to describe them using tones and semitones, and you'll be able to understand how to describe intervals fully. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I want you to subscribe to this channel, share, and also like, and also you can leave a comment or a suggestion or even a compliment. Thank you so much for watching this video. Till next time.